The Dark Knight trilogy has a bunch of interesting facets to it, like how it's named after the second movie in the trilogy and not the first, or how Rachel looks way different in The Dark Knight compared to Batman Begins, which really confused me when I was 9 because I didn't really understand the concept of recasting. In all honesty, the most interesting facet of the trilogy is Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale combining their talents to bring us one of the best looks into the tortured mind of Bruce Wayne ever made. Today I want to take a look at the trilogy and discuss where the movies worked and where they didn't.
Yield. You haven't beaten me. You've sacrificed sure footing for a killing stroke.
So, as the title suggests, this is the origin for the Nolanverse Batman. We see him slowly go from a scared orphan to a rallying symbol for the people of Gotham. He gets trained by the League of Shadows to destroy Gotham, only to use that same training to blow up their headquarters and head back to his home, thinking Ra's al Ghul is dead, only for the League to show up again and launch their assault on Gotham. This is the movie that really kicked off my love for Batman, and that's for good reason. This movie is full of Bruce making it up as he goes and making mistakes that anyone would, like getting poisoned in the apartment or letting Ra's men work as security guards at his event seemingly without using any background checks. The slow progression and Bruce's expertise with his gadgets is a good way to show his vulnerability. He almost dies on one of his first nights out because he doesn't know how to use his grappling gun yet. Then he uses that same gun to save his life in the climax of the movie. They do a really good job of balancing the terror of Batman's presence with his inexperience. Christian Bale really makes the whole thing for me. The movie didn't quite cement him as the best Batman ever, but it put him up there for sure. I love the integration of Bruce's young life with his training. You can feel him growing and changing throughout both, but they slowly rise to a boiling point, with tons of signs pointing out to how things are about to go sideways. I really like the dynamic between Bruce and Rachel. Rachel can come off as preachy at times, but you can tell it comes from a place of love. She wants the best for Bruce, so when she sees him going down the wrong path, she tries to reach out to him. The divide between them is super realistic, given how they have the same goals, but they use wildly different methods. When Rachel says that Bruce Wayne is his mask at the end, you can tell that the methods they choose are what pulled them apart. The cinematography for this movie is pretty good, except for the occasional shot that looks really odd. Cillian Murphy and Liam Neeson as the villains work so well. Cillian Murphy is extremely off-putting, and he makes Scarecrow feel like a real person, while Liam Neeson plays a misguided zealot to perfection. Honestly, as long as you give me Liam Neeson sword fighting in a movie, I'm down for whatever. Choosing Ra's al Ghul as the final villain was a great idea. Him and Bruce represent two sides of an extreme, so using Ra's is great for showing how strong Bruce's moral code is. Bruce won't go against his morals no matter what, because he feels like his code is what separates him from the criminals. People don't like the moment where Bruce leaves Ra's for dead at the end of the movie, and I disagree. Bruce has saved Ra's once already, and people have died because of that. He won't actively kill him, but he doesn't want to put any more people in danger. People complain about Batman putting people in jail just for them to turn around and hurt more people, but then when he lets them die, people get mad. Moral of the story, you can't please everyone. Next movie.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
This movie looks absolutely phenomenal, and the soundtrack complements the scenes very well. Visual style is really important in Batman movies, and this movie gives off a vibe of being a city in real life that has been dragged down by extreme corruption. A really important aspect of these films is the fact that a lot of it is possible in real life, which helps with relatability. A Gotham feeling like a place you can visit really adds to the whole experience. This movie is the crown jewel of the trilogy, and it gets almost everything right. Batman is at the peak of his power, having the police behind him as he works to take down the Joker. The first scene is a great introduction to him, having his crew take out each other one by one, making sure he's the last one left. I feel like this was to make sure he didn't have to give anyone a cut, and since he burns the money later, I think he wanted to be personally sure that the mobsters couldn't get any back. If he paid them, they probably would have spent it lavishly somewhere and drawn a lot of attention, causing them to be found and the money they had left to be taken. We don't know that he doesn't care about money yet, so having them take each other down seems smart for completely different reasons. This mode of confusion is really fitting for the Joker, given how confusion is his main weapon of choice. Joker is so good at it that we the audience don't quite get it yet, because he's not really meant to be understood. Joker is a deeply disturbed person, and he does all that he does in the movie to prove that one bad day will change anyone. And while he does prove that, the way he does it is so insane that dozens, maybe even hundreds, die because of it. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker has been endlessly praised, and for good reason. He completely melts into the role, to the point where you really can't tell that this is the same guy from A Knight's Tale. Heath Ledger was viewed by some people as a pretty boy rom-com type actor, and this was his chance to show that he could be more than that. His performance is so good that even though everyone else is doing an amazing job, your focus is on him. Aaron Eckhart is one of the people being overshadowed, and he's doing great as well. You can truly feel his pain over losing Rachel, and can see how deeply that loss broke him. His arc is a perfect example of the one bad day concept, showing that even the best of us can be turned from the good path they were on. Harvey Dent was great for the city, and if Joker hadn't attacked him, Gotham would have ended up a lot better. Up until he ends up in the hospital, everything Harvey does is for others, like claiming he was the Batman even though he knew he was drawing a target on his back, or telling Batman to save Rachel, knowing he would die if Batman didn't save him. Harvey's only goal is to save Gotham, and when that gets him disfigured, he begins to resent the same system he used to fight for, so he decides to make his own, leaving things up to chance by using a coin to make decisions for him. Christian Bale became my favorite Batman in this movie. He's on top of the world while he's in his suit, but he's suffering as Bruce, seeing the woman he loves with someone else. He tries to bury himself in his work as Batman, but when Rachel gets targeted, his interests as Bruce take over and he gets tunnel vision. Bruce is constantly fighting to restore order in Gotham, but every time it seems like he's a step closer to Joker, it turns out that's the exact step Joker wanted him to take, and it makes things worse. Even with all that going on, Bruce never quits, going up against hard odds over and over, and pushing through all the tricks and traps the Joker has for him. Even with all the Joker throws at him, he stays steadfast in his principle and only breaks his one rule as an accident. Joker ends up winning, but he doesn't destroy Batman as a person. Batman's status as a symbol might be compromised, but even that doesn't stick forever. In the end of it all, hope wins out.
Something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know the world hadn't ended.
This movie is really underrated, which is to be expected. When you follow up one of the greatest movies of all time with something that isn't one of the greatest movies of all time, people tend to not like things like that. Even if this movie isn't as good as its predecessor, it still has a lot of good things that are worth talking about. Bruce's journey back from being broken is amazing. I talked earlier about Bruce maintaining his principles, but here, those same principles have worked for him so long that he isn't ready for someone who is just as smart and just as strong. It's been years since he dealt with a major threat, and because of that, he softened up. Bruce losing to Bane in the fashion he did shows him that he has to get back to the Batman he was before the night at the warehouse. The people of Gotham need him, and he can't let fear stop him from saving them. I really enjoyed the fight scenes between Batman and Bane. Batman's change in approach from their first fight shows his growth and adaptability. Instead of mindlessly throwing himself at Bane as if he were a common thug, he fights defensively, drawing Bane into an area where there's more space for him to operate in. He also makes sure to stand his ground when necessary and attack Bane's most obvious weakness, that being his face mask. Batman conquers his fear, and in doing so makes Bane feel that same fear, causing him to fight like an animal backed into a corner. Bane himself as a character was really interesting given how his background affects his plans. He was forced to wear his mask because it was protecting someone who didn't have the power to protect themselves, and now that he has power of his own, he targets the people who he views as powerful. In a way, he views himself as a protector of millions of Talia al Ghuls, and he sees blowing up Gotham as something that had to happen to save all of them. The Talia al Ghul reveal was so random I couldn't believe it. This random new character being added should have clued me into the fact that she might be the mystery child, but even with taking that into account, this reveal falls completely flat for me. The fact that she dies like this is a great representation for her character. It's abrupt, odd, and out of place. The fact that they went with this take amazes me to this day, but if this is the best take they had, I'm almost worried to look for footage of the other ones. When it comes to the end of the movie and whether or not it's real, I would say that I want to say it's real, but I'm not sure. I know that's the intent of how things end off, so I'm fine with it being completely ambiguous. If you want to think Bruce got away, you can do that. If you want to think Bruce died in the explosion, you can also do that. As humans, we love to have things answered for us, but leaving things off like this can be a blessing in disguise, at least for the longevity of the film. It's been over 10 years since this movie, yet we still discuss what really happened. Maybe that's Christopher Nolan's way of making sure Batman lives on. In a way, he's showing us that it doesn't matter whether Bruce is alive, because no matter what, his symbol still lives on.
That was totally wicked!
With the release of The Batman a year ago and the release of its sequel coming up soon, I thought it would be nice to look back at the stories that changed our modern perspective on one of the most popular heroes of all time. Hopefully, this video brought a new way of viewing the trilogy to you. I know pretty much anyone would agree that The Dark Knight is an unbelievable film, but the movie managed to be so good that the two others get completely ignored at times, and they both have their merits. A big focal point of these movies is whether or not Bruce or Batman is the real mask. Honestly, I'm not sure it matters, but I feel like Bruce is more comfortable in the suit. When he's not in the suit, Bruce can never be himself because he has to put up a front to keep attention away from himself. When Bruce is Batman, he is a lot more free. In a way, I think that Bruce works through his guilt over his parents by taking out criminals, and if he couldn't do that, he'd lose himself. So, long story short, Bruce Wayne is the mask. At the end of the day, these movies have so many layers and quotable moments on top of some great plots, and they all come together to form one of the most iconic Batman stories of all time.